Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 313, From the Vault. Episode 191, Real Self-Care Means Following Through. Well, welcome to this brand new month, and one that is going to be, at least here on the show, all about self-care and boundaries. And with the holiday season already here, I thought it would be a great time to revisit and remind ourselves of what having a healthier holiday season means. Since it can be a time that all that great work you've been doing on yourself all year can go out the window pretty quickly. And so we want to be mindful. And I also want to acknowledge that for some of you, it might be a very hard time of the year. You may be going through some things. And so whatever you have going on for yourself, join us this month, join in the self-care, and take care of you. So this week, I'm bringing back a powerful episode from 2023, one that lands even deeper during the holiday season. Because here's the truth, real self-care isn't what you intend to do, it's what you follow through on. So in this episode, we talk about the part of self-care that no one posts on Instagram, that uncomfortable grown-up side of it. Like holding your boundaries, honoring your limits, and keeping the promises you've quietly made to yourself. So if you're someone who shows up more for others than yourself and can kind of let your own needs slip to the bottom sometimes, this episode should help you understand why, and more importantly, how to change that with compassion, not criticism. So here we go. Here's episode 191. Well, today I want to dive deeper into the idea that true self-care is when we make it real and not just talk about it. When we follow through on both holding the line on our boundaries and taking responsibility for what we have promised ourselves we would take care of, we tell ourselves that we matter. Self-care involves following through with actions that nourish your physical, your emotional, and your mental well-being. We talked last week about some of the good things and not so good things to have in our life. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode yet, you might want to do that first. Then come back and join us here when you're done, so this episode will make more sense to you. Okay, so when you commit to taking better care of yourself, it means setting boundaries, means saying no to things that drain you, it means prioritizing rest and relaxation, and making time for activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Following through with these actions not only benefits your own well-being, but I think also supports your ability to be assertive and to advocate for yourself in all areas of your life because you feel more grounded. And boy, have I met with so many people over the years that fell into the not-so-healthy relationships and friendships and situations when they were more vulnerable because they weren't taking better care of themselves. And this left them with more self-doubt and wobbliness, I guess you could say, than if they had felt more grounded. Remember that self-care builds trust, and it also reconnects us with our truth. I mean, if you're not listening to your body because it's tired or it needs to feel better, how are you going to listen to your gut about some person you just started dating or a new friend group you've just gotten into? Listening to ourselves is listening to ourselves. Also, when you're taking care of yourself, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more confidence, and you're going to have the clarity of mind to communicate your needs and set healthy boundaries in your relationships and at work. So before we get to all that great following through, though, and what it looks like, let's first get real about what happens when we let things slide, when we let them be late, be forgotten, etc. Because a big part of self-love is actually acceptance of what is out there in reality. Because it's only then that we can make healthier choices. So here are a few of the consequences when we don't follow through. And as you listen to these, I encourage you to look at your own situation right now and see where you are. It's not time to shame yourself, but if you do need to get real, then get real. But just mix in some compassion and the knowledge that you can reset today. One of the consequences is increased stress and anxiety, and for a lot of reasons. One is physiologically, the brain science now shows that we need to take time to calm down our nervous system so that we can regroup, so we can heal, so we can lower our cortisol levels. So there's a lot of brain science backing that up. And then hand in hand, psychologically, deep down, we know we aren't loving ourselves enough. And that can cause some anger we don't even want to own. We don't even know we have it. Anger at ourselves, frustration with ourselves, disappointment in ourselves. So there's the self fighting the self. Another consequence, burnout and exhaustion. Same thing. If we aren't getting enough rest, enough downtime and balance, we will burn ourselves out. You can't pour from an empty cup. We can only take so much. We can only absorb so much. You can only absorb so much stress, so much trauma, so much drama, so much imbalance. Another consequence is difficulty sleeping, probably because of the anxiety and the anger, the frustration, not being able to quiet yourself before you go to bed. Now, conversely, think back to a time when you slept so much better after maybe a long day outside in the fresh air, having a great time with friends, having a quiet weekend. When was the last time you slept really well? What was going on before that? Another consequence, more obvious, poor physical health. Now, this list can be long, unfortunately, in terms of all the ways that our health can suffer. But the older we get and the more we look at how stress impacts our health, we need to take this more seriously. Guys, we can only get away with so much self-neglect, right? With so much stress, with so much not taking care of ourselves. Physically, in terms of nutrition and sleep and exercise and downtime and play and enjoyment and laughter. Then there's the mental health issues like depression and anxiety, because if we don't take care of ourselves financially, physically, and emotionally, we can feel so overwhelmed and or depressed. Another consequence is the negative impact it has on our personal and professional relationships. Yes, other people will pay if we don't practice self-care, ironically. So many people are afraid to be selfish, and women are the worst at this, especially if they have kids or people to care for. They're going to put them first. But I always say we're 1,000 times more selfish when we don't take care of ourselves. We're not going to do it to the detriment of someone else. But now just picture the moment when you or someone you know melted down recently because they didn't take care of themselves. They didn't ask for what they needed. They didn't say no. And now everyone else has to stop and take care of them. Another consequence is decreased productivity and creativity. Look, our brains won't work right when we don't let them rest. We need to regroup. We need to rest and reset in order to be our best selves. When we're stuck in survival mode, when you're stuck in your reptilian part of your brain, it's kind of hard to imagine having the wherewithal to be creative. On top of that, remember Maslow's needs hierarchy. If you're in survival mode, you're not worried about other things. You probably don't have the bandwidth to think about being creative or planning for the future, planning something fun, because you're too busy surviving. That's why we have to set aside time for quiet and reflection so we can actually think about those things. Another consequence is difficulty managing emotions and feelings. because we're acting out our overwhelm, our exhaustion, our anger, and our frustration. We just don't have the coping bandwidth anymore. Then to make it worse, we're going to often displace what's really going on and what we really need onto little stupid things and cause needless conflict and stress ourselves out and those around us. We're going to get frustrated with other people because we backburnered our day off to take care of their stuff, as an example. And you may be doing this without even realizing it. I think two of the biggest consequences are the next two. The first one is a decreased self-esteem and self-worth. When we don't follow through on taking care of ourselves, we're pretty much giving ourselves the message that we don't matter as much, that our needs don't exist or at least are less important. And then here's the thing, how can we trust ourselves or value ourselves when we don't take care of our house, not taking care of our bodies, we're not taking care of our need for comfort or rest or connection, when we can't trust ourselves to say no to doing too much? Every time we don't follow through on what we know we need and what we know we need to take care of, even if it's a personal responsibility piece, like financial or taking care of our health, every time we don't follow through, we let ourselves down, and then we feel less about ourselves. And this goes hand in hand with the final one, feeling disconnected from yourself and your values, from your dreams and even your sense of purpose. Because if you're so busy being the human doing, but neglecting yourself and what you need to do, there's no way you can feel grounded and connected. In essence, we have to disown and shove away and stuff and push down what we need, what's hurting, what we're frustrated about, what we really know we need to get done, because we're so busy doing and maybe people-pleasing and striving, seeking approval, seeking acceptance, seeking identity out there. Sounds pretty heavy because it is. So those are some of the big consequences to not taking care of ourselves, not following through. So from paying that bill to cleaning that closet to taking a down day when we need it, to asking for help, to looking at our career, it could be anything. Anything can be self-care if it's for our highest good. But it ain't real unless we take the risk to make it happen. And we don't have to do it perfectly. So when I say follow through in this episode, following through on what you can is always a great place to start, because you got to start somewhere and you have to get out of the hole somehow. And when you start doing it, it's going to feel so much better. You're going to want to do more. If you struggle to not even know what your needs are, or to imagine being that selfish, quote unquote, to take care of yourself, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to step out and start doing it. It's going to be hard to trust that you're going to be okay doing it too. So start where you can and just experience it and see how it feels to be more organized on a Saturday, to take a Sunday off, to get back into that exercise routine, whatever it is for you. So here are some ways to help ensure that you follow through on your self-care. First one is schedule it. Don't put it on a to-do list only. Set aside specific times in your calendar dedicated to those particular self-care activities. Because if you don't time block it, it's so easy to get too busy and too distracted by whatever else comes along. And the other thing too, when you schedule it, you're making it matter. You're saying it's important. It's an important part of your life, just as going to work, paying the bills, taking care of the kids, because you matter. Number 2, be accountable. Don't do this in isolation. Share your self-care goals with a trusted friend or a loved one who can help keep you accountable and not nitpick you or shame you, but just check in with you. And my encouragement is you go to them and you tell on yourself, this is how I did today. Good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. tell the truth so that you can assess what's going on. Like, why couldn't you take care of yourself this week? What do you think was happening? I think it's really important to figure out the why, because then we can figure out the culprit and then the solution. For example, if you had a hard time taking care of yourself this weekend, the real culprit was you didn't set boundaries when people asked you to help them out. So then you have to work on your boundaries in order to work on your self-care. Like we were saying earlier, another thing you can do is start small. Begin with small, manageable self-care actions that feel easy to achieve, and then gradually build up to the more challenging ones. This builds your momentum, but I also think it builds your confidence. And then celebrate success. Celebrate each time you follow through on your self-care goals. I don't care how small they are. You want to reinforce the positive behavior. And then make it enjoyable if you can. Choose self-care activities that you enjoy and find fulfilling rather than those you feel like are a chore. For the things that you must do that are true chores, try pairing a yucky one like cleaning the fridge. That's one for me. With a fun one or that you get to take a break after. Keep rewarding yourself. Try to make it enjoyable. Be flexible. Be open to adjusting your self-care routine as needed to accommodate changes in your schedule or to try out new techniques. It's really important not to be rigid about it. Now, it's a fine line. We want to be committed. I'm not saying be flexible enough that it gets thrown off your schedule completely, but you don't have to do the perfect or horrible all or nothing, saying, well, I didn't work out on Tuesday and Thursday. Well, then just change it and do Friday and Sunday. Have enough flexibility built in that still allows you to follow through. And finally, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Remember, it's okay to slip up. Life is long in that regard. Don't be too hard on yourself. Keep working towards your goals. Every week is different. Some weeks are going to be better than others. Do what you can, when you can, and how you can. Because every time you witness, you are following through. I don't care if it's 1 out of 3 things this week. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel less anxious because you're not fighting yourself. You're going to feel more self-trust. And I think you're going to feel calmer because you're meeting needs, not wants so much. You're meeting the needs to feel nurtured, to feel organized, to feel like you are, like we talked last week, like you're doing proper planning. You're taking responsibility for yourself. And what people don't talk about enough in terms of empowerment is that is empowerment, is taking responsibility for us, for our choices, for our happiness, for all the little pieces of footwork that have to come into play for us to feel sane this week. And we have to figure out what those things are. So if you're just now getting on the self-care train, I want you to think about, yes, it's nurturing. Yes, it's a hot bath. Yes, it's a walk. But it's also taking care of things that need to be taken care of. Cleaning out the closet, paying the bills, confronting the difficult situation, setting boundaries, walking away from something toxic, going to work for a healthier boss, looking at our nutrition, looking at our mental health, looking at our play and our creativity and our joy, enjoying life. That's what they mean when they say balance. It's the stuff we have to do mixed with the stuff we love to do. It's about taking responsibility, but it's also about allowing yourself to feel good about you, allowing yourself to be both responsible, but also playful and calm and grounded and happy. Someone who gets things done, but also can have downtime and have fun. So today we talked about how self-care involves following through with actions that nourish your physical, your emotional, and your mental well-being. When you commit to taking care of yourself, it means setting boundaries. It means saying no to things that drain you. It means prioritizing rest and relaxation and making time for activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Following through with these actions not only benefits your own well-being, but I think it also supports your ability to be assertive and to advocate for yourself in all areas of your life. Because when you're taking care of yourself, you're more likely to have the energy, the confidence, and the clarity to communicate what you need and to set healthy boundaries in your relationships and at work. So that was episode 191, where we dug into how real self-care means following through on what you need to do to take care of yourself. We dove deeper into that idea that true self-care is when we make it real. And when we follow through on both, I think holding the line on our own boundaries and taking responsibility for what we promised ourselves that we would take care of. Self-care really means following through on actions that nourish your physical, your emotional, and your mental well-being. When you commit to taking care of yourself, it means setting boundaries, saying no to things that drain you, and trying to prioritize some rest and relaxation and some mindful, quiet time where you can find just even moments of joy and fulfillment. Following through on these actions not only benefits your own well-being, but I swear it really supports your ability to be assertive and advocate for yourself and be a benefit to those around you. So take some time this week to be mindful, think about what you want to do to take care of yourself during this holiday season. Not to be hard on yourself, just put some gentle guidelines in for you and be intentional and try to get out in front of it. That's how we take our power back. That's how we build and restore self-trust. And that's how we become calmer and more confident, where we can actually enjoy the holidays. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this episode, this revisit, was helpful for you. Pass it along to those who might also need it. Check out the show notes. I've got coursework in there. I've got some free stuff in there. Reach out to me if you need some guidance or just want to discuss what's going on with you and where you might need some help. And be proud of the work that you're already doing. Because if you're listening to this, you're working on yourself. I want you to feel good about that. You're always doing more work than you realize. All right, so pay it forward. Keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.